Hi folks, welcome to Intermediate Bird Identification. I'm Kyle Drake with Birds Canada here in Saskatchewan. This video is made in part to support the participation in the Saskatchewan Breeding Bird Atlas, a citizen science project that aims to determine the status and distribution of birds that nest across the province. And with that, let's get started. In this video, we're going to cover waterfowl, and we will focus on adult birds that nest in Saskatchewan, but many of these species can be found across the prairies and indeed in much of the rest of Canada. We're excited to have released this module on waterfowl because here in Prairie Canada, we sit at the heart of the Prairie Pothole region, a region colloquially known as the duck factory of North America. The birds on this list comprise waterfowl, most commonly encountered south of the boreal transition zone. We do have a few more species that occur in the province, either more boreal in distribution or they're less frequently encountered. But on this list here, we have 16 species that we're going to cover off. Before we get started in the species identification, I want to mention a reference that's really useful for identifying waterfowl. This one's called Ducks at a Distance. You can find this online, and it helps to identify birds on the wing, speaking to size and shape of body and also flight characteristics. This is a good guide for identifying wing patterns, which is useful for species identification and often for being able to tell the difference between drakes and hens. This guide also speaks to the administrative flyways, which are used in migratory bird management. And here in Saskatchewan, we actually have 3 flyways touching the province, which leads to some of the great diversity that we see here. The other thing I want to bring to your attention is that waterfowl have a unique plumage molt, which is when they're in this top plumage up here, as we're looking at this mallard, this is what's known as their alternate or nuptial plumage. But shortly following a breeding attempt, the drakes or the males will molt and they will start to look like females. And this is known as the basic or the eclipse plumage. And this is just to note that later in the summer or midsummer to late summer, the male ducks will start to look like the female ducks for a period of time until they come back into their alternate plumage. So the ducks are broken down into 2 categories known as dabblers and divers. And this refers really primarily to their foraging methods. So dabblers will feed at the surface, whereas the divers feed underwater by diving. Dabblers, their legs are more centered on their body, whereas the divers, their legs are farther back on their body. This facilitates swimming when they're underwater. Dabblers have a large wing size for their body size, so they have low wing loading and they can spring off the water and take off vertically, whereas divers have small wings for their body size with high wing loading, and they need to run along the top of the water and beat their wings quickly to get a takeoff. Dabblers sit higher on the water, whereas divers sit lower on the water. And when we get into the slides, you can see this a bit more. So the dabblers we're going to cover are these 7 species here, and you can see as these birds are sitting here, they're higher in the water, and you'll notice under the water here you can see their leg, and you know, under the water you typically won't see that in the divers because they do sit much lower on the water. So the first species that we're going to cover is the mallard. It's the largest of the dabbling ducks. It's not the only greenhead, but it is the greenhead. This is what a lot of hunters would refer to mallards as, a greenhead. So the drake or the male has this iridescent green head and this cinnamon brown breast with the bright yellow bill. And the hens or the females are mottled brown, which is pretty typical for female ducks because they're the ones that sit on the nest and incubate the eggs. And you can imagine this bird sitting in the grass and being quite camouflaged if it was sitting in grass on a nest. This inset down here shows the wing patterning of both the drake and the hens. Often these are different between the sexes. The ruddy duck is a species where the males and the females have a similar or exactly the same wing patterning. And this area right here on the wing is known as the speculum, and this is quite commonly colored in waterfowl, and it ends up being a diagnostic area on a lot of the birds that we want to pay attention to. And so in the mallard, the speculum is blue and it's bordered with white in both the sexes. The next duck is the Gadwall. This is another large dabbler. It's about 80% the size of a mallard. The drake is overall gray, and from a distance it appears just overall gray, but up close it's very intricately patterned. They have a extensive black coloring on their rear end or their bum, and they have a dark bill. And so this gray bird with a dark black bum is diagnostic for a male Gadwall. The hen Gadwall, much like the hen mallard, is mottled brown. This bird also has an orange bill, but it's mostly on the edge of the bill, and the rest of the bill is quite dark. And they have a faint smudge around their eye. The white speculum patch is found on the wing of both sexes, whereas the male has this nice cinnamon color up on the wing. The next bird is the American Wigeon. This is a medium-sized dabbler. It's about 80% the size of a Gadwall. The drake has this distinct white cap and the green stripe behind the eye, and this bill that is blue-gray with a black tip is found in both the males and the females. The hen has a grayish head, which contrasts with the brown body, and they have a dark smudge around the eye. There's a green speculum with a white patch on the upper wing, which is reduced in the females. The next dabbler is the northern pintail. This is a medium-sized to large-sized dabbler. It's about 70% the size of a mallard. They are slender and elegant in their morphology of their body. They have this long, slender neck and a long, pointed tail. Sometimes they get referred to as a lawn dart. Hunters will refer to them as sprigs, speaking to the long tail. The drake has this brown head with a white stripe down the neck that extends to white down into the breast, and this long pointed tail. The hen is mottled brown with a plain face. The speculum is green in males and bronzy in females. This is a species that likes really shallow wetlands and open country and tends to be most common in the southern parts of the province. The northern shoveler is the other green-headed duck, but this one, because of its bill, is often called a spoonie or a spoonbill. This is a medium-sized dabbler that has this really large, black shovel-shaped bill. The drake has this dark iridescent green head and this rusty patch along the flanks that stands out against the white. The hen is, again, another mottled brown duck, that is that way because she's going to be sitting on eggs for a good part of the breeding season. She has a bill much like the male, but hers is orange. But again, it's this big spatulate, shovel-shaped bill. The shoveler has a green speculum in both sexes with this powdery blue patch, in the males here up on the upper part of the wing. The next bird is the blue-winged teal. This is a small dabbler. This bird is quite vocal when it's grouped. They give these high-pitched cheat calls. They're really fast flyers. All the teal are very fast flyers. The drake has a slate blue head with this distinct white crescent on its face and this mottled brown body. This white hip patch is also something that is unique to blue-winged teal. The hen is another mottled brown duck, but she has a dark eye line. You can see this dark eye line here that goes through here. She also has white eye arcs, and this is referring to these white places above and below the eye, and then a whitish coloring at the base of the bill, which is different than green-winged teal, which is going to be the next slide for comparison. The speculums is green on the drakes, and both sexes show this powdery blue patch up on the marginal wing coverts. The green-winged teal is the smallest dabbler found in Saskatchewan. Again, these are fast flyers. The drake has this chestnut head with a dark green eye stripe behind the eye and this distinct white spur on the gray flanks. The hen is a mottled brown duck with a darker cap, and another one with this eye line here, but it lacks the white eye arcs that the blue-winged teal had, and it also lacks this that lighter coloring at the base of the bill here and the feathers where it articulates here. So the speculum on the green-winged teal is green and giving rise to their name. There's also this black bordering here with whitish bars. Okay, to summarize on a couple of things here with the dabblers. So ducks with green heads, includes the mallard and the northern shoveler. Remember that the mallard's bill is yellow, whereas the shoveler's bill is black and large and spatulate. The body color of the mallard is gray with a chestnut colored breast, whereas the body color of the shoveler is a bright white with the rusty flanks. The next summary slide is ducks with a green eye stripe. So remember that the American Wigeon has this white patch on its forehead, and it also has this blue-gray bicolored bill, whereas the green-winged teal has a white patch or this spur on its side, and its bill is black. All right, divers. Remember, these guys dive underwater for food. Their feet are farther back on their body for propulsion. You won't see them when they're sitting in the water because they sit lower on the water. They have small wings for their body size, and so they need a longer runway to take off, and they tend to be in deeper water and lakes and rivers as opposed to shallow marshes. So the first diver here is the largest diver found in Saskatchewan, and that's the canvasback. This is a quintessential prairie duck that when you spot them on the cattail marsh, their nickname is simply a can. So canvasbacks have this large sloped forehead, or it's a large duck with a sloped forehead and a distinct bill. The drakes have this rusty head and a bright white body. The hen is a warm brown overall, but also has that sloped forehead and that distinct bill. The next diver is the redhead. This bird is about 80% the size of a canvasback, so it's a medium-sized diving duck. It has a steep forehead and a dark tip on its bill. The drake has a redhead, so aptly named, and it has this gray back and body. The hens are a warm brown overall with a pale base, pale feather coloring at the base of the bill and a faint eye ring. You can see that the drakes and the hens have a similar wing patterning. So when comparing canvasbacks and redheads, remember that the head shape on the canvasback is this sloped forehead and bill, whereas the head shape on the redhead is this scooped forehead and bill. The coloring on the canvasback is this bright white body that stands out. You can think of a white canvas that you might paint on, and then they have the black bill. Where the coloring on the redhead is this gray body and this blue-gray bill with a dark tip. If you're observing these birds from a distance, this is how they would look in terms of the canvasbacks really standing out with that white on their back as opposed to the gray that you're seeing on the redheads. The next diver is also a medium-sized diver, which is the ringneck duck. So this bird has a dark-tipped bill with a white ring that sometimes makes you maybe wonder why the bird wasn't named the ring-billed duck. The drake has this black head and breast, and its back is also black, and then these gray flanks. And the ring on its neck, which you can see on the inset here, is seldom seen. The bird has to extend its neck for you to see it, and you don't often see them doing that, maybe unless they're doing breeding displays or stretching. The hens are dark brown overall with a white eye ring, and again have this pale feathering at the base of the bill. And then they also have the ring around the bill. The next diver is the lesser Scaup. It is also a medium-sized diving duck. It's about 70% the size of a canvasback. The drake has this black head that when caught in the light properly, it'll look kind of greenish color, as you can see on this bird down here. Their back appears gray because of the mottling and the feathering, and they have these white flanks. The hen lesser Scaup is a dark brown bird overall with this bold white patch at the base of the bill. And you want to compare this to greater Scaup during migration, but you won't see greater Scaup down here during the summertime or during the breeding season. So comparing the ringneck duck and lesser Scaup, the color on the ringneck duck on its back is solid black, whereas the color on the lesser Scaup is this finely patterned black and white barring that actually looks gray from a distance. And the bill on the ringneck duck has a white ring around it, whereas there's no ring on the bill of the Scaup. So the next diving duck is the ruddy duck. Ruddy ducks fall into a family of ducks known as the stiff-tailed ducks, and this is what we're seeing here with its tail often sits raised like this. This is a small, compact diving duck. They're usually the last one to arrive here in the spring. This is a bird that has one of the highest wing loadings of any bird on the planet. So they really need a lot of space to get their takeoffs. The drake ruddy duck is this rusty overall color with this bright white cheek patch and a bright blue bill. The hen is brown with a dark cap and a cheek with a dark stripe on it. And this is one of the birds that has, has exactly similar wing patterning colors. The next diver is the Bufflehead. This is a small diving duck that is actually a cavity nesting duck. So this bird needs trees that are big enough to have cavities, and they use cavities that were previously excavated by northern flickers. So the Drake Bufflehead is a black and white duck with this large white patch on the back of its head. These birds, if you see them out on a pond or a lake in the sunlight, they just glow, and you know, they'll catch your eye, and they'll probably be small enough that you'll want to put binoculars on them to tell what they are, but they really do glow. The hen bufflehead is this gray brown bird with a white oval patch below their eyes. And both the drakes and the hens have this white patch on their wings. The next diver is the common goldeneye. This is a medium-sized diver that's about the same size as the lesser Scaup. It has a short triangular bill and this yellow iris in its eye. The drakes have this black iridescent head and a round white patch behind the bill. They have a black back with white windows and a white body. This is the white windows on the back. The hen common goldeneye has a brown head with a gray back and body. And she also has this, you know, not quite as brightly colored goldeneye, but, you know, there's a bit of a yellowish tinge to her eye as well. This bird also nests in cavities. Okay, the hooded Merganser is the smallest diving duck that we have in the province. They have a thin saw bill, and this is because they dive underwater and they catch small fish to eat. The drake has a black head with a white patch on its crest that can be seen when especially when it's raised erect like this bird is here. They can, you know, relax it a bit more when they're sitting down or when they're flying. It doesn't, you know, look like this gaudy hood that they have. They have a black back, or black and white back with the rusty flanks. And the hen is a gray-brown bird overall with a frosted brown crest. And so they get this kind of messed up hairdo looking thing going. Neat looking birds. Okay, so some tips for identifying female ducks. I guess the first tip is, if you're just getting started on learning your ducks, is to maybe ignore the females for a little while and learn the shapes and the colors of the males. And then once you start to know the males, then maybe pay attention to the females that are nearby the males, and often they're going to be similar species. Remember that the Dabblers are more mottled in coloring. These guys over here, you know, and this is because they tend to be those upland nesters where coyotes and other predators are. Whereas the divers, they tend to nest over water, and so they aren't quite as mottled. They tend to be just more brown in coloration. When you do start to pay attention to the females and trying to learn female ducks, the head patterns, the coloration on the head patterns and the wing speculums are very useful for identifying the female ducks. Okay, and the last species that we're covering today is the Canada goose. This is the largest goose species. It's the only species that breeds within the province during the summer, but we do get many other species of geese passing through during the migratory period, and they're worth you know, checking out on your own. So the Canada goose has this large black bill and a long neck. The sexes look similar in geese, and they have this white cheek or chin patch or strap, and a brown body. Everyone is familiar with this bird You can see them nesting in a variety of contexts throughout the province, from the very southern border all the way up into the boreal forest. So that wraps up today's list of birds. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. At Birds Canada, we're always happy to help you learn to identify birds and to have citizen science programs for all different skill levels. Visit our website at birdscanada.org or follow us on social media at Birds Canada to learn more or to get involved. If you have any questions or comments about the video, you can reach out to Saskatlas at birdscanada.org. And last, do check out the Saskatchewan Breeding Bird Atlas website at sk.birdatlas.ca and follow us on Facebook, where we post links to the upcoming workshops and other training opportunities. Thanks again and happy birding.